Hi
Hey.
again, everyone, and welcome to another special edition of Dead Men Talk, which is going to be the third and final of the mini Resurrected series that I've come back with, and I'm thrilled to welcome to round this little trio of episodes off is a fellow writer, and as I've just found out, a fellow musician as well. So we got a lot to talk about. I welcome to the stage, as it were, Pete White. How are you, sir?
Very good, thank you. Yeah, you keeping okay?
I'm good. Thank
Yeah.
you. Bit warm, like we
Yeah.
all are,
Did
I
you
think.
did you get any of that biblical rain that we had in the
No,
southeast?
no,
Oh my
no.
God.
I think
Yeah, it
we
was
need some.
terrible.
Is it
Yeah.
really? I've had people. Could we had rain a little bit overnight a couple of
Mm.
nights ago, and there was people that I know that were complaining because we had it, they didn't, and then all of a sudden everyone's saying that the heavens have opened for them,
Yep.
and we're
Yeah.
just sweltering here. So if I've got a sheen on me, it's
Yes.
because of that. It's because I'm sat near a window that is quite bright. So
Yeah.
there we go.
Yeah. Burning. Good
What part
stuff.
of the country are you from? This is really
I'm
good.
in Tring, so it's Hertfordshire.
Okay.
Yeah, so just sort of north of London, really, not that
Okay.
far.
Yeah, I know.
So
I'm from Basingstoke
yeah, yeah.
originally, so
So
I know sort of that kind of that part of the country. Anyways, that's
yeah,
cool. That's cool. So
yeah,
southwest and
yeah.
southeast. So anyway, we're not here to talk about
Exactly.
the weather, as
No, indeed.
cliche as it is.
Mm.
Um,
No, good.
I bringing you onto the show because you like me, you have a love of writing, and you have a book which is out there, which I've read. It's fantastic. I want to talk about it. I want to find out a little bit more about what lies behind the story. So essentially, you,
Sure.
because I think
Mm.
the going back to the roots of my show, it is really delving into the stories behind people's stories, really,
Sure.
and the
Yeah.
roots of it. So with yourself, before we get to your book, and
Mm.
we introduce it and delve into that, if we just kind of rewind it as far as we can to, you know, your life, the importance of reading, writing with you, when you first had that connection with reading, obviously learning to read and write, but your love of it,
Mm.
we all got that in us at a certain age where we decide to go in our own direction and decide to be a bit creative. When was that for you? Where did that go back?
Well, this is the weird thing, really. Sort of during sort of school days, I would definitely we didn't really have the attention to be able to sort of diagnose me, but I definitely would have been diagnosed as dyslexic.
Okay.
Um, so I really struggled with maths and English at school. Never really wrote anything at all. My handwriting was terrible, still is actually. Um, But what I did get into when I was 14 was writing songs. I've been a songwriter
Cool.
for 25 years.
Wow.
Yeah, long time. I've written hundreds of songs, and a bit like yourself, probably.
Well, you
And it's
say
just
that. You say that. The one thing I started off before I wrote my book. I started off writing lyrics. I've never done anything with them. It's literally only a handful of songs. They're pretty rubbish.
oh,
But
interesting.
it's the
Yeah.
thing that I've always wanted to
Mm.
do, I suppose. So
Sure.
I mean, yeah.
I'm, I'm I'm like the flip side of you, basically.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I wrote songs pretty much all of my life, and as much as I like writing songs, you are, and unlike writing,
Mm,
you are bound by certain structures.
yeah.
When you're writing songs, you're bound by a meter, and
Hmm.
and it's like a jigsaw puzzle, and you have to make the pieces that fit.
Yeah.
And it's a case of you have a rhythm of the words that fit into the thing, and then you have to find the words that fit, and also you have to try and tell a story if you can in 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And although it can be great when you get it right, it's actually very restrictive.
Yeah.
I mean, there are types of songs, like you like show hands. They're
Mm,
great at telling stories
yeah.
and things like that. There are writers that have that ability,
Yeah.
about to tell like stories in their songs. Bob Dylan, and
Yeah.
you can really create worlds within songs.
Yeah.
But you'll often find that those writers aren't so specific about tying themselves to a meter.
Got you.
They will go off on one, because the story's more important.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but for me, it was a case of I wrote songs, album after album after album, done. You know, we got signed to an indie record label, and I've sort of done little bits of touring, and we put records out, and I've been in various different bands and done all these sort of stuff. But it was only literally, so it's very backwards for me. But it was literally, I got COVID in 2020,
Yeah.
and that was when we were like, we don't really know what this is, and I don't know how that's going to go. And so I was at home because I was enforced to stay at home for 10 days, and the first couple of days was a bit weird. Didn't really get any symptoms. Like I got like a runny nose for half a day, and that was it.
Yeah.
But I didn't know whether that was just a start and it was going to progress into something much worse.
It was a freaky time.
You know?
Yeah, it really was.
Yeah, really freaky. Yeah.
Nobody, because it kind of resembled everything. That was the thing I found annoying about it in a way, is everything you had could be put down to COVID. It's like there's just no clear definition.
Exactly. Yeah.
None of us knew.
That was the thing, and we knew, we personally, me and my wife, we knew people that died from this. So we knew it wasn't something to be light-hearted about. But I was stuck at home, and after 2 days of pulling my hair out because I'm a bit of a fidget, I woke up. I used to wake up with the ideas of songs. I used to wake up and then be like, oh, I've got this idea for a song, and it'd be 3 o'clock in the morning. I'll be like, oh God, I've got to try and put this down. Oh, it's so good, I'll remember it. And then you go back to sleep, and then it's gone.
You don't.
Yeah. And it's one of those things.
Countless award-winning has passed me by. Just I reckon.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good, I will remember it. And it's gone. And then I woke up. It's day 2 of having COVID, and then waking up with this idea, this glimmer for a story, and it was just it's basically a part of a dream that I saw, and my dream that I had was the first chapter of my book.
Okay.
That was the start of it, and that was in its entirety, and I had no idea where it came from, and I was just like,
having read that, that's actually very cool. Having read that first, it's actually very cool then to hear that.
It was really weird, yeah. And I just thought. So I got up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I was just, I didn't have anything to write it down. So I grabbed my fiance, now wife's laptop, and then sort of just really crudely plotted this thing. Like there's no punctuation in it whatsoever. It was just this huge like page, and it was just like I don't know what I'm going to do with this, but I just had to put it down so I didn't forget it. Yeah, so I got it down. And then the next day I woke up properly, and then I reread it and I went, I really like this. And I went, so I then wrote for 10 hours a day.
Wow. Now that is some dedication there that,
obsessive. I'd say
I suppose some people, but I suppose within the writing circle, that is progress.
I was driving my partner absolutely crazy. Like literally, it was just, she was on a work call, like on one room, and then I was swapping to the other room to just carry on tapping away. Because when I write, I just literally use 2 fingers, and it's tappy tap tap, and driving her insane. And it's great. And I literally wrote for 10 hours a day, just stopping for tea, and I finished that book in 7 days.
Wow!
I just like bashed it out, and I was just like, I have no idea where that is. Yeah.
So
really weird.
I'm guessing whatever work you were doing at the time, you weren't able to do that, so you were at home. You had.
Yeah, I work in the film and TV industry. I work as
It's okay. So you're a musician. You've written songs. You've recorded albums. And you work in the TV and film industry. This is before.
Yeah, I'm a lighting tech. So I'm a practical electrician. Okay. So anything you see on film that's electrical, that's what we do. Because all the film lights, you don't see those. They're just lighting the scene. But if there's a lamp in the corner, we do that, and we get it back to a way that you can control it and set scenes.
Wow.
And some things are quite heavy. So I'm in the middle of doing a Sonic thing at the moment called Knuckles, which is a TV thing. It's like a spin-off for Sonic the Hedgehog.
Okay. Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. I'm a massive retro video game fan, so you just tapped into another part.
Yeah.
So we need to set aside another episode.
Yeah. Okay. So that's just coming to an end, and then they're doing the next Sonic film as well that we're hoping to get on.
Wow!
So that's quite cool.
That's fantastic.
So
I was cheekily going to ask though, is there anything that we might know of that you've worked on, but you've already dropped into massive things that I can connect with. So
I mean, there's quite a few things. I did some Expendables. The last Expendables I did a few weeks on. That's quite interesting. Jurassic World, Dominion, that was quite good. Batman, Vengeance.
Not just small stuff then. Not small straight.
Oh, no, but I'm very, very small cog, like this big, like squishing your head.
I'm fascinated whenever I'm talking to anyone who is remotely involved in that kind of thing. I think
It's cool. I do like it.
Mm.
It's one of those things. I do feel very lucky every day when I'm at work.
Yeah.
You know, so
Do
it's
do you think being in those kind of environments, you know, as you say, a small part of it, but within those kind of environments, do you think that's fed your creativity in any way?
yeah, yeah. I think to say uh, that it wouldn't would be foolish. I
Yeah.
mean, like it's just you pick up ideas. It's just
Mm.
things. It's just like osmosis. It just comes out of everywhere. I've always found that with songs. It's just
Yeah.
about people, really.
Yeah.
My friends when I was sort of growing up got to a point where they refused to tell me anything because I turn it into a song. You know, so I'll be,
You're one of
you know,
those.
they come to a gig and I'll be singing a song. They go, "It's about me, isn't it?" Yeah, it's just like there's just about their struggles and about stuff. And but that's the greatest thing. What I always loved about songwriting is that you can hide little horcruxes, to coin a phrase, of yourself
Yeah.
in them,
Yeah.
and you can do that with stories too. You know, like this is why I found the whole process of writing just so.
Yeah.
So now I'm just given this blank, metaphorical bit of paper,
Yeah.
and I'm not bound by any meter, or I haven't got to be done in 3 minutes. It's just like I can do whatever I want. It's just pure freedom,
Yeah.
and I love it. But I can also hide bits of me in there,
It's
and the stuff that I experienced, the stuff that you know. You must. Everybody's got experiences that sometimes when you think of them, they still sting. You know
yeah.
when you're like, oh, that's bad,
Yeah.
and you just kind of move on.
Yeah.
I can cathartically bring those into stories,
Yeah.
and it helps. I don't know
Totally.
why, it just does.
I'm totally with you on that. When I started writing, I mean, I'm unearthing as I go back and I think about, you know, my childhood and whatever. There was a big part of it that really lay dormant for me. There's not many memories that
Yeah.
I let myself open up to. Um, but sort of the more I've gone back, the more I've realised writing was always there in some way, but
Mm,
I never consciously wanted to do anything with it until I
sure.
reached a point that you know, mental health kind of takes over, or you know,
Mm,
lack thereof,
yes,
and writing was my way out of that. I think
definitely.
I got
Yeah.
easily my first three books written fairly quickly,
Mm,
because you know, I was
mm.
writing around work, but because I was trying to write my way out of where I was at the time. That's where my writing
Is that
slid, was
the
where I
Acolyte?
that's it, yeah. So all of the
Yeah.
Wildemore
The
Apocalypse
Acolyte
trilogy
series.
was, yeah,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
was me coming out of the darkness that I had. And that's why people, you know, keep on, you know, what are you writing now? Any more to come? It's slowed down because I'm not there anymore. So it's
Sure.
almost my direct.
Mm,
So I completely understand what you mean about
yeah.
putting that if you've got these kind of memories or things, events that happened, you almost don't, if you don't want to tell them from a personal perspective, you can bed them into
You can hide them
something.
in somewhere,
That
and
is a brilliant
and
way.
it's very, very cathartic.
Mm.
It's amazing. I recommend, I recommend everybody. I honestly believe that everybody's got a story in them.
Yeah.
And I honestly do, and I do, and this one I've come up with is mine, and it's yeah,
Let's
it's different. I
let's
think.
it's a
Yeah.
perfect way of bringing it in then. So let's kind of, we've got a real taste of that. I know there's a lot more I could delve into about other
Sure.
things you have done, but I think that's probably for another time. Let's introduce your book then, and let people in on what we're talking about. So, Hidden in Plain Sight, the Blackstones.
Mm.
Tell us a little bit what you can about, because I know this is the one I've read, at least, is just the start of the whole story. Tell us
Yes.
what you can about the story itself, and just, yeah, kind of, you know, how it developed for you.
Sure. Okay. But where I am with it at the moment, it is a trilogy, a bit like yourself, with the Acolyte stuff.
Mm,
Um, it's I finished the second book, which is actually the prequel, which is set in 1952.
yeah.
And it's a much bigger book. It's sort of 507 pages,
Wow.
which is for me is a lot. That's a A4 as well. Not
Wow.
not 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 formatted,
No, but even
because
so,
I'm
it usually becomes,
yeah.
I think by the time you start formatting, it becomes more even sometimes. So,
Does
yeah,
it?
there you go.
Oh God,
Not
yeah,
to put the frighteners on
yeah.
you, but you might,
No, no,
it
but
might, I might
yeah,
be
but
wrong.
yeah. Well, I'm about 30 chapters into the last the last one now, and I've got it all plotted. But this particular story is just like the introduction into this world, and it focuses around William, which is the grandson, and they go to stay with their grandparents in Wiltshire, and it turns out that his grandfather was heavily involved in a lot of deeds in London in the past. But you find out the more you go along.
Yeah.
And William ends up getting sucked into something, and then you find out that it's. I don't want to give away too much,
No,
but
no.
yeah, it's quite dark. The thing is, the first book, the one that you've read is very much from William's perspective, and it kind of shows because it's everything's relatively light-hearted, and he finds everything funny
Okay.
because he's at that age where the weight of life hasn't really got on top of him yet,
Yeah.
and he can laugh things off.
Yeah.
But he has an experience that will change him. But the second one, 1952, is very much from the grandfather's perspective, and it's a lot more emotional. There's a lot more depth there and deeper colours, and
Okay.
there's a lot more to it.
Sounds
Yeah.
fascinating. So was it a conscious decision? You explained there where the idea first came from. It came to you literally in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
When did the idea for the backstory, as it were, sort of the prequel, did that come as you were writing that, or did you know from the off that you needed
No,
to jump
it
in
kind
at
of
this point?
no, I had no idea. I wrote that first one as just like a snapshot of where it was, and then there's a section in this book where he talks about uh, uh, he was telling William, his grandson, about a bad time he had in a tunnel where a friend of his was taken,
Mhm.
and it was all to do with London and secret societies, and that's all I knew really. And then I just really wanted to delve into. So I've always loved that picking something apart,
Yeah,
and just go, well, what if?
yeah,
So what would that look like then? So, and where would he have grown up, and what would have happened? And it just kind of builds itself. I don't know about yourself, but you just sort of you start just heading in one direction, thinking, well, this is a very fairly sort of linear direction, and then all of a sudden you've just created all this whole tree of ideas that are now
yes,
converging, and just you're like,
yeah,
oh, and sometimes it just kind of clicks into place. You're like, wow,
yeah.
really
I,
weird.
you know what? It's like talking to me. This is fantastic, really, because yeah,
Yeah.
that is exactly what I went through when I was, even before I had the idea for Acolyte. I had three short stories that I was struggling. I kind of had ideas. I put them down. I didn't really know where they were going. And it wasn't until then I found one thread that kind of I could use to bind them all together, and all of a sudden they all came together in one book.
It
Um,
all made sense. It's almost
it's
like your
weird, isn't it?
subconscious knew and you didn't. Yeah,
That's it. That is it. A
yeah,
bit like you,
yeah,
you know, it knew yours knew to send you this idea at that moment. You were able to capture it, which many of us aren't able to at that time of the night or whatever, you know. So
yeah.
it's fantastic that you've been able to develop that from literally that moment of inspiration, which otherwise could have just passed you by.
Yeah, and I think the other thing, the other thing is that I've always had an appetite for conspiracy theory,
Okay.
and not really believing in the mainstream narrative on things.
Yeah.
You could see that as being slightly cynical, but it's just an addictive feeling. That's
Mm.
what it is. Is that there's something going on that they're not telling you,
Yeah.
and that feeling is addictive. And you can only look across the pond in America how Trump managed to get so many
Yeah.
people on his side, where he managed to turn a whole section of society, against the government that he was the head of. It's
Yeah.
really weird. It's just like,
Yeah.
oh, they're just telling you lies.
Yeah.
But it's that feeling of conspiracy, and then taking it one step further.
Yeah.
So not to give too much away, but like I still do. I love walking around London,
Mm-hmm.
and I love just seeing not the mainstream landmarks, but just
And
the
yeah.
old quirky pubs and the
Yeah.
backstreet places, and the sites of William Blake and
Yeah.
Hawksmoor churches and all of that stuff, as it all sort of ties up.
Yeah.
Ian Sinclair's a great writer about London, and,
Okay.
and
Yeah, I haven't read any of
the
this stuff.
secret ley lines, and it's very good. It's very informative. But I remember going to this shop. Have you ever uh, been to it's like almost like a museum. It's called Victor Wynn's um, Cabinet of Curiosities or something.
Ah,
It's
yes.
absolutely bonkers.
Okay, I know
Yeah,
the sort of thing.
it's it's madness, and it's full of all sorts. And it's in the East End, and it's Shoreditch, I think, and it's I often used to sort of grab a beer, and sort of sit outside one of these really old twisted pubs,
Yeah,
and saw lots of just people watch.
yeah.
And I just thought to myself, so if vampires did exist, if they did, they wouldn't actually be going around biting people, would they? You know, they'd be probably buying blood out of, wine shops that actually secretly sell a bit of blood on the side.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that was just like one of my many little ideas of just a little fantasy. And what if there was a secret sort of governing body of families that met twice a year to be able to discuss what's going on?
I
And
think
it's all these little ideas have just gone
yeah,
into this
but you probably
to
scarily you're tapping into stuff which actually could probably not fiction at all. Um,
we never know. We
yeah,
never know. And that's the point, is that you and I will never know. And
no,
it's that's the problem, is that you can get sucked into the idea of having to find out what the truth is. And
mm,
that's the fundamental theme of certainly the second book that I wrote, is it's hard to know what the truth is,
yeah,
because it will always be hidden, and whatever they put out in the mainstream media is generally a lie.
yeah.
You know, generally. I mean, I don't know, but that's the
Do
point.
you?
We don't.
I
Yeah.
mean, this is a bit of probably a pretty big question to ask, really. But it's one I've always been fascinated with. Social media, internet, and that, it
Mm,
can make everyone a conspiracy theorist nowadays
yeah.
because you can come to your
Okay.
own conclusions, you can do your own research. Surely people thought along these lines before that was even around. How would
Yes.
people have acted on these kind of things before the internet? Before being able to find an audience to listen to them, because there's someone out there for everyone.
Indeed, but that's the thing. I mean, I try not to pay too much attention to the social media aspect of this stuff,
Mm.
because it's often done for entertainment, and there's a lot of filler and very little
Yeah,
killer.
yeah.
I looked at there was a I can't remember who wrote it, but there was an amazing paper um, called "The 13 Bloodlines of the Illuminati."
Okay.
Fritzinger, I think his name was, and that's fascinating,
Right.
absolutely fascinating. Talks about the 13 families of who he's suspected to be in the Illuminati, and how it's all tied up with various other bits and pieces. But
Yeah.
as a form of entertainment, it's just fascinating to think
Yeah.
that something like that could be going on.
Yeah.
Um, but it's a bit like everybody needs somebody to blame, right? It's just like
Yeah. Yeah. That's very
that's the
true.
thing.
Yeah, I mean, you've always got to look at all the problems in the world. I mean, people a bit like yourself, I suppose,
Yeah.
who just have a moment to sit there, reflect. You
Mm.
can't help but try to find explanations for all of these things that you can't solve, but you kind of want to feel
No.
like you understand them a bit more by it's because of so and so over there, or it's because of this.
So
And
I suppose, but like for me, it was a case as if I wrote about it,
mhm,
and I made it real for me in my little story.
yeah,
It was one way of drawing a line under it, to saying, well, it was real, and this is what happened.
yeah, this is my take on it.
So
You know,
this is my take on it. And
yeah,
like what I tried to do in the second book is that I tried to keep it all. Um, I took some significant things that happened in 1952,
okay.
and I gave them a reason, and I gave them, a bit of gravity. So, like, in 1952, something that they hardly talk about is the Great Smog of London.
Ah, yes, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and it
Bit
was a
about that
whole
story.
week. Yeah, it was a whole week of like dense fog.
Mm.
But in my second book, there was a reason for it, and because they were hiding something. Yeah, so I brought
That's
in some.
brilliant. That's brilliant.
Yeah, so they were doing something, but it gets really dark. It gets really dark, and I've done some stuff with it. All kind of ties up. It's the use of blood, and it's almost like I don't want to spoil it. I could
No,
go really
no,
far. I don't want to
hold
spoil
back, hold back, hold back. No, no,
it.
we won't. Well, I was going to ask actually, 1952, does it have a
Mm.
significance why you set it that year? Is it because of these events you knew of that you could tie together, or did those did you pick a year and then all of a sudden all this stuff started
I kind of
coming to you
literally,
afterwards?
the reason that I kind of settled on that because I kind of had in my head of how old Williams Grampy was,
Okay.
and when it was set, it was sort of set in 2015.
Hmm.
Um, so it was a case of just running backwards.
Yeah.
And then I just looked around that kind of decade for a decent year where some bits happened,
Yeah.
and then settled on that one. It was perfect for me.
Oh,
But it was much of a curse because if I don't know whether you've ever tried to research the 1950s, but it's almost bloody impossible. There's hardly any photos,
oh, that's
you
true.
know,
Actually, yeah, yeah,
hardly any photos, hardly any maps because it was post-war, so nobody
yeah,
bothered because they're like, oh, we're rebuilding everything,
yeah,
so
yeah,
we'll wait till it's rebuilt and then we do the maps. So
yeah.
even trying to find a map of 1952 of London, of
Mm.
Greater London, is very, very difficult. So I'm just like, going through the internet and Wikipedia and God knows how many sources, just trying to find. Every time I do go to like a market store, I'm looking on books for 1952.
Yeah.
I've got about 4 or 5 encyclopedias over there of world history. We're talking about conspiracy theory. I've got like a big chronicle. It's massive. It's about this big. It's a
Oh,
chronicle of everything happened in the last 100 years. And when you look in December 1952, they don't even list the smog.
oh,
It's not listed.
really?
Yeah,
I don't know.
interesting.
There's a
Yeah,
reason for that. Maybe you are well onto
exactly.
something, mate.
Yeah,
There we go.
yeah.
There we go. Oh no, that is really really no, it's fascinating to again find out about this because it's similar kind of process I had taking me back to Acolyte because I got two strands of a story of the same place,
Mm,
but one is sort of early 2000s, one is back in the late 1600s. And I knew I wanted to write something historical, but
sure.
I've basically found a way of weaving them together. And
Amazing.
I always wished I've read all these historical books. I love C.J. Sansom, and I'm reading
Right.
his series at the moment. And the amount of detail from that time, it feels like you're there. I've
Wow.
never had the attention span. I've always been very impatient to get my story written, I suppose, in a
Mm,
way that the thought of delving into spending too much time researching
mm.
escaped me. But now looking back on it, I'm like, I really wish I'd done that to make it a little bit more
Plausible.
genuine. I suppose, yeah, I
Yeah.
suppose I wrote it in a place which doesn't exist anyway. So I had
Sure.
poetic license on what happened there. That was my get
Indeed.
out
Yeah.
clause.
Yeah.
But really, I wish I'd been able to be a little bit more, set it more realistically.
It's just difficult,
Mm,
because doing stuff that's set in the past and even the not so distant past of 1952,
mm,
I had this like so many things I had to consider. Like rationing was still in place.
of
Like
course,
it was shillings as well, shillings and pence and
printing,
pounds, and
of course.
so all of that to go with it. And there was the fashion that was heavily coming in from America as well, but not everybody liked it. So there was all these things to consider of
Yeah.
what was available, and like you put something in there and then go and then do a bit of research and you go, I didn't even come over to the 1960s, and he's like
Yeah.
scrap it and then go, no, it's just literally just
Yeah.
trying to not break the spell of,
Yeah.
not that anybody would, most people that were, you know, my parents can barely remember the 50s.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There'll
so.
be someone somewhere though. You've almost got to picture the biggest critic you will have for this book of that time, and you want to be
Mm,
able to please them, I suppose. You know that if you
yeah,
cover everything, yeah, most people probably wouldn't notice if something was out of place, but there's going to be someone who would,
sure.
and you almost
Yeah.
you don't want them to give them an excuse, do you,
No,
to
exactly.
find anything wrong with it. So
Yeah.
so the first book
Mm.
it's out at the moment.
Yes.
Where can people buy it? Firstly,
It's on Amazon at the moment, only on ebook format.
yeah.
I'm just trying to get it formatted properly so I can do a proper print version.
It's a big
And
task.
that's
That's the reason why one of mine hasn't come back out yet. Is because I'm stuck at that stage. So I feel your pain. That's
Have you looked at Atticus? Have you
no, I
seen
haven't.
Atticus?
Is that like
Yeah,
formatting kind of
it's
software
it's
thing?
it looks amazing.
Okay,
It's half the price of Vellum, and
okay.
Vellum's only on Mac anyway.
Yeah.
And I've looked into it over the past couple of weeks, this Atticus thing, and I think I'm going to go that direction.
Might have a look
It
at that.
looks very, very simple to use.
Okay,
Yeah, and
that's
because
good.
I thought, well, I've got 3 books to do, so I might as well just just it's about 140 quid,
That's not too
you
bad.
know, and
Yeah,
yeah, it looks really
takes
easy.
the pain
And
off.
then yeah, and you can edit it on it as well, and you can tie somebody else in to edit your work at the same time.
That's cool. Oh,
You know,
so
yeah.
there you go. So we can get it. We
So
can get it on Amazon in ebook. I mean, everyone's got an ebook reader of some description these days, anyway. To be honest with you, so
yes,
they can get it there. So obviously you've started to sell us on the second book. Then when can we expect that might be out there in the wild for us to read as well?
it's it's being edited as we speak. So probably another month's worth of editing, and then I'll probably get it formatted, and then probably put it out towards the end of the summer. I
Cool.
think. Yeah, but I'll send you a proper advanced
Oh,
copy
bless
if
you.
you
No,
like.
I wasn't on the hype for one of those, mate. No, that's fine. Thank you very much. So that's, I appreciate it. I
Yeah.
really, I mean, I'm very, very intrigued. You know, the first book
Uh,
kind of leaves you at a point that you want to know what happens next. So
I was
and then
interested to
obviously,
see what you thought. See what you thought the first one. Is that did you? How did you find it? Without giving too much away,
hmm.
how did you find the end of it? Because some people read it and went, "Oh, that's really dark," and that's not what they were expecting.
Okay,
Yeah.
I wouldn't say no. See, I didn't pick up on the dark aspect, but then again, I'm into some pretty
Mm,
dark stuff anyway. So it probably, you know,
sure.
if it
Yeah.
was, it's sort of in the same vein of stuff that I'm already reading, which is a good
Okay.
sign. So if that's what you were going
Okay.
for, then yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I liked it, you know, and I think the thing I've always tried to do is when I've tried to write a shorter story. Obviously, this isn't a short
Mm.
story. It's a short novel.
It's much shorter. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I've never been concise enough, and what I liked about this is you got quite a bit of action in there. It's very pacey.
Mm,
It's not like it's not wasted at all, and that's what helps me keep a book going. You know, and not want to put it down
sure.
is when something always happening. So
Yeah.
no, it's a fantastic idea, and one like we've already discussed, one that many people I think would have pondered of something like this in the world. You know, stuff like
Mm,
already goes on, secret societies and
yeah.
the like. We don't know the full
Mm,
truth, so I think reading someone else's take on it, like my Wildemore Apocalypse was my trilogy was my take on the 2012 um,
sure.
you know, apocalypse, end of world, which was supposed to happen but
Yes.
never did. It was my take on, okay, why are we still here?
The
This
Mayan
is,
calendar.
yeah,
Yeah.
that is
Yeah.
it. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
kind of like I was living up to 21st December 2012 to find out
Mm,
what, you know, morbidly, what's going to happen. 22nd
yeah.
of December 2012, I was back at work. It was a normal day, and it was just like, what was all
Bit of
that
a
about?
letdown.
It was. I can't. I probably haven't got enough time to kind of go through it in detail now. But I found something came up on TikTok, which
Mm,
challenged not the legitimacy of the Mayan calendar, but
mm.
suggesting that we were basing it on the wrong dates, and actually the right dates worked out to be December 2019, which is when COVID
Oh,
first came out.
interesting.
So I was like,
Yeah.
oh, there's, you know, anyway, yeah, but it's a very, very similar thing. So it's like something, you know,
Mm,
like what you've done, you've taken something that a lot of people probably already have pondered the thought of, and you've sort of said,
mm,
how about this? You know, this, nobody has to say it's right or wrong, but it could be. And I
mm.
think that intrigue is fantastic.
Yeah, I think there's an appetite for, you know, it's the idea, when you look into sort of Masonic orders and things,
Yeah.
anything that's secret, like you can see it in London as well. So if you walk past a bar,
Mm,
you see some people going in, and somebody puts a rope across,
mm.
and they just stand there. They have no intention of letting you in. The moment they do that, you want to go in because you're like, well, what's down there?
Yeah,
Just
absolutely.
it could be just a just a crappy bar, like
Yeah,
with just one beer in there that's awful. But it's
yeah,
the fact of the matter is you're not allowed in there. So I want some of that bit. I want this
yeah,
secret beer. That's what it
yeah.
is. So anybody that keeps anything a little bit secret, it makes you want it more.
It
And
taps
it's
back
just
into when you're a kid and you're told, don't touch that. Don't touch
you
that
got to
button
touch it
there.
now.
Yeah,
Or you said
exactly.
not to. Yeah,
This big, you can touch everything except that really big red button there.
exactly.
Our
Yeah,
instincts are we're going to test, aren't we? We're going to, you know, we're going to be like,
yeah.
yeah, why am I not allowed to do that? It's in us from day one. I think it's just,
Yes, no, it is, and it's just, yeah, that's what I really sort of tried to sort of tap into myself when I was writing this story, and it's I think the frustrating thing for me is that the one you've read
mm,
is just like a litmus test It's because if you don't like that, you'll hate the second one. You'll hate it
Okay.
with a passion.
Okay.
But it's like if you go, oh no, I quite like that,
Yeah.
you'll love it.
Okay.
I honestly, it's because there's so much more to it.
And that's
It's a
what
bit
you.
like watching a little, it's like watching a little trailer or something and going, I don't really like look at that.
That's
You'll
fine.
hate the film.
That's a great way of doing it, really, because then
Yeah.
you've not almost you've not led someone so far down the garden path they're going to really feel cheated when it's not what they see
Mm,
as it carries on. But yeah, like you say, it's a test, so the people that probably pick up the second one are the ones that are really into it already,
mm,
and you're going to
yeah.
capture them. You're going to keep them. That's
Hopefully. But
brilliant.
yeah, we'll see.
Well, look,
Yeah.
all the best on the series. When it is all finished and out there. I mean,
Thank you.
thinking beyond, I know you're sort of neck deep in this story and sort of where it's going at the moment. Have you got visions of anything particularly you want to do beyond that when that's out there?
No, I, I, I've never, a bit like when I was writing songs, I just never forced a single one of them because when you force it, it's not right. You have to wait for the inspiration to come again. And
Yeah,
if I'm meant to write another story, it will come to me, and if I'm not, it won't. And
yeah,
and I'm fine with that. It's been this particular story of mine, which is mine to tell, is been probably the most rewarding, not financially, of course, but
no, no.
it's been the most rewarding experience I've ever done. Honestly, it's
That's why you should
brought
do
so
it.
much out of me.
That's
Yeah,
definitely why you should do it. Yeah, that's what I've always been told, and my wife is always telling me because I've sat here so much, and I've been like felt guilty because I'm not writing. I should be doing something because for us, COVID killed it for me. I'll be
yeah,
honest.
sure.
I was going
Mm,
really well up to that point, and then
mm.
my inspiration just went out the window, and I've struggled to get back to it. But she was like, "Don't force it."
No, exactly. Just
It's.
allow it.
I think the stories that I'm more attached to of mine are the ones that have just come, and it's
Exactly.
I've accepted that. So yeah, totally with you on that.
Yeah, you have to get a
So
taste for it again, and you
yeah,
will, and it's one of those things. It's just so you
yeah,
don't have to force it, but just allow it,
yeah,
isn't it?
yeah,
You've written far more books than I probably ever will, and it's just a case of it will come. It
yeah.
will come.
And I look at some authors, some other authors I know that just keep churning them out, and I'm like, firstly, how have you got the time to do it? How have you got the inspiration to do it? It's brilliant that
Mm.
you are, but it's like, blimey, do you not get tired of it? And they don't. It's fantastic. They don't, and it's brilliant. But for me, I think I always need this natural break to let it kind of reset. And yeah,
Definitely.
I
Yeah. I know.
yeah,
Did
that's
you
fine.
find when you finished the Acolyte series, the Wildemere
Mm,
Apocalypse thing,
yeah,
did you feel like when you were finishing it, because I'm trying to prepare myself for the feelings, but
yeah.
did you feel like a period of mourning when you were coming to the end of it?
I
Did you?
did. I really did. And I came across a post that because it comes up on your memories on Facebook. It was this time of year years ago when I did the final book, and it's like I did feel that sense of loss because they're characters that I had obviously created, this whole setting I'd created. I knew where it was going, although the
Yeah.
ending changed as I was writing the third book. It kind of went slightly differently. I brought another character that I'd created in another one of my books in, so it kind of felt like my entire universe
Was just in this.
was yeah,
Yeah.
and then that was it. And I must admit, fairly quickly afterwards, the cogs were turning. It's like, what else can I do? Is it finished? It's like when you sign off a book, the end question mark.
It's
You
just like,
kind of let people know
yeah.
there's a possibility there's more to
Mm,
this, even though I don't want to take it further than it needs to be. So I think
yeah.
that comforted me a bit. It's like I don't have to finish it there. It could have life in a different direction yet.
And is
Um,
there different aspects of it that you could potentially dive in
and
to?
that is where I was up
Yeah.
to when COVID hit because I was writing a follow-on novel, which was going to be a follow-on, like a spin-off trilogy that happened
Sure.
years after. Um, the subject matter of it was too closely linked, really, to COVID, and I just like
Oh, okay.
stepped away, and that was it. I've not found my way back to it, but yes, I've thought of
Mm.
all these different ways that I can not tell
Yeah.
that story, carry on telling that story, but what else have I not explored?
Which is
So
kind of like within that world that you built.
absolutely, yeah, because
That's
you've got people there that will still be there at the end that you may decide there's more of their story to tell. Yeah. So
mm,
yeah.
yeah, no, exactly. No,
So,
definitely.
ah, cool,
That's
cool.
cool. Yeah.
Pete, this has been fantastic, mate, talking to you. Like I said at the beginning, there's plenty more I know I could speak to you about. So I'll definitely have you back on again at a later date. See
No
where the
problem.
series is going and see what else is going on with you, mate. But before I let you go, just invite people to, where can they, obviously your book's available on Amazon. Is there any social media or websites out there that people can go to find a little bit more out about you or follow you or anything?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram. I'm on there as Pete White Writes. Yeah, so I haven't got any continuity between any of my branding, which is really confusing for me, let alone anybody else, because I'm just a bit crap.
No,
Yeah, but I'm on Instagram, so yeah, feel free to send me a message on there, not a problem. But yeah, it's on Amazon, reassuringly overpriced for what it is. I'm sure it works out about about 10p a page. But I didn't know what I was doing at the time. So when I put it on, I was just like looking around. I didn't know how much to put it on for, and I had quite a lot of messages of people saying it's a bit expensive. I loved it, but it was a bit expensive.
Okay.
I'm like, I don't know.
No.
Yeah, so
is that what they say? I think Amazon changed it. After I started doing it on there, I think they changed it where they actually dictate a lot more of the price than you do now. I think I don't know if it's still the same. I haven't done it for a while, but yeah, they kind of found a way of getting involved to set the prices.
I see.
I had a few author friends that were complaining about the same kind of thing. It was like, this is much higher than I would have put it on for myself.
Yeah, but I'm also really fearful and reluctant to make any changes whatsoever because I had quite a run in with Amazon just about the name because because I'm not from this writing world.
Yeah.
I'd heard of Jeffrey Archer. I knew I knew he wrote books. I didn't know he had a book called Hidden in Plain Sight.
Right.
Yeah, and I didn't know that the main protagonist in that was called William. So
what are the chances?
Yeah. So I put this on, and then it was on there for a week, and then it got pulled down, and like Amazon was saying, "Oh, it's infringement of this and that," and I was like, "Infringement of what?" And then like it took like a couple of weeks to sort all this out, and I had to change my subtitle and all of that sort of stuff.
I thought, because I've often wondered about this. You got films, songs, you got books out there that have got the same or similar or the same titles. I think provided the content is different and it's come from a different source, I thought, it's just kind of
now you can use a well-trodden phrase. They can't copyright that. They can't have that. Okay. But it's because my subtitle was too similar. So I had to change my subtitle. That's why I changed it to the Blackstones.
Okay.
Yeah, and I changed my author name just in case, which makes me sound really posh, but I'm not at all. It's great.
Oh, listen, mate. I'll tell you what you are. You've been a joy to talk to, Pete. Thank you so much
for
coming on, mate. Yeah, this is great. Can't wait to do it again. Can't wait for the second and the third books. All the best with everything, mate. And
thank you.
We'll speak again.
Yeah, all right. I'll see you again soon. Cheers. Take care.
If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to like, share, and hit the subscribe button. Also follow us on Facebook and Instagram to keep updated about all future shows.